Hey, this is Jared MML, and this is my sit-down and review of the new character in version 0.9.15, Yashiro. And this is the way that Penstaz said that they were gonna go on with making characters with their own mechanics. Let's get into it. If you haven't seen this sit down and review before, then I'm basically going over the characters mainly from a gameplay aspect. I don't really look at the lore and appearance, though the visuals are really nice. So, again, I'll go through the old gods, the backstories, the old gods, and basically the passive, quote-unquote, or the mechanic to this character, along with the things he starts with. That should be a good, wholesome thing while I do a run. And also talk about his perks, of course. But, yeah, Yashiro, 8 knowledge with 5 charisma, so he is the knowledge right after Kyrie, except that he does have a different mechanic, while Kyrie has a random spell, which is... it's not as much as... basically, yeah, Yashiro, next to Haru, has a whole new mechanic to him based on his faith, which is a stat personal to him, but we'll get into that when we get there. Let's start with the backstories. So the backstories, a World of Horror as in normal, interacting with his faith, no real effect there, and this is kind of the normal, neutral backstory for everyone. For Yashiro specifically, managing faith in every backstory is mainly dependent on the mystery, so not really. So with the backstory that has no effect, he can still work with high faith, he can still use his knowledge to his advantage, and depending on what you decide to build him, because his stats are pretty flexible. You can make him you can use a strength weapon or a dexterity weapon with them, especially because of how stats change, but I'll talk about that in another video. Medical history. Yashiro does have a perk that works with escaping from combat if you want to run in a lot of medical history runs. Otherwise, in a medical history run, I haven't seen it yet, but I know for sure that curses like suicidal and paranoia do proc his faith. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I've seen it before. We'll see it in this run, but if that's true, then getting injuries from medical history that cause you to damage yourself, just talking about in terms of possibilities, so say you get a mangled hand and you take 1 stamina damage to yourself when you attack. If that does affect your faith, then yeah, medical history can be a big oof to Yashiro. Otherwise, if not, then he can come out just fine, but the injuries are going to stack against him. And yeah, you can choose to run away if you decide to play him more coward-like, but he does have perks that increases damage as well. But like I said, with injuries, that can decrease your max reason and or stamina even more if you're using certain perks. So medical history is a tug of war, like a lot of backstories that I'll talk about. Hunted by the Cult, almost the same thing, just that in terms of encounters. So if you run into easy quote-unquote cult members, then that's a lot of faith healing or increasing of your own faith. If you run into a certain cult member, though, you're going to be taking a lot of damage and, by extension, losing a lot of faith, which is the most, as I said, the faith will be one of Yashiro's, not the most significant thing. It reaching low numbers or not being high isn't going to kill your run, but it is an effect you need to watch out for. And cult members, depending on how much damage they're doing to you, can be a nuisance. However, the lower doom can help you with certain god combinations with your own playstyle. 7th Curse is pretty nice for Yashiro now with the included heavy-duty... well, my personal choice is the heavy-duty flashlight, which is a knowledge-based weapon, which happens to work well with Yashiro. And now that stats have an odd threshold, I'll talk more about that when I get there, or at least for some weapons. Then yeah, 7th Curse, starting with more funds, can get you a free weapon or anything else you want. Which will help out with... this helps out all characters, but Yashiro especially, being able to level up and get his perks quicker, depending on which ones you want, means you have a more flexible choice in how you want to play, either very brute force combative, or, like I said, you pick a perks to run away, and be more passive and try not to take damage encounters, so that's that. I was also going to say that the funds help you buy items that help with events, since certain items now have uses in their own events. Ill-fated, all event skill checks automatically fail, is not as... well, since failing events and losing resources off events doesn't affect your faith, then you can kind of treat... this is more neutral to Yashiro. The only other thing I would note is that if you're using... Well, actually, let's go back. Yeah, well, we'll still end with ill-fated. Yeah, ill-fated is more neutral to him. He doesn't really interact with events with any of his perks, unlike Aiko, who has discipline, or Miku, who has doomed already. Yashiro is more. Most of his perks work towards either him having items or him dealing with affecting encounters in some way. Also, going back to 7th Curse really quickly, there is something that you need to keep in mind. One of Yashiro's perks works with the fact that he has no allies, so if you don't have any allies in 7th Curse, then it's not really a negative for Yashiro if you plan to use this perk. So, and then now to the new background. So I'll go over all the characters really generally, but for Yashiro especially, Knight Errant is more that it works with the new god, which means you need to pay attention, because Knight Errant, if you don't do ending A's, then you get 7% Doom, and that can be a lot if you keep failing ending A's. -1, but that's bugged right now. However, for Yashiro, I can't imagine, unless you plan to use his escape perk, then yeah, like I said, 7% Doom plus running from combat to make use of the perk can be really detrimental to you. Although I don't imagine a lot of people would take that specific perk. Instead, they would take his 2 other encounter relevant perks, and that can help out if you're trying to get ending A's, because some of them involve actually killing the boss. So I think mainly 2. So yeah, that's that. So Yashiro, overall, he's an interesting character. He does have his own mechanics, so I believe it's more something you just have to be more knowledgeable about, being aware of what your situation you're in and what you can run to. Yes, you're at the mercy of RNG, but some planning does help out, and if you have a good strat, then it works out. So we'll move on to the actual run. Make sure we're character specific perks. That way we can have fun with Yashiro. We'll also play the new god just to show it off a little bit, but I'll probably, like I said, I'll go over it in a separate video, most likely. Maybe I'll go over it. But yeah, let's go over the gods. Yashiro versus the gods. Goizo resting at home. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't really have anything that revolves around resting at home. Indirectly, though, if you want to heal resources after taking a bunch of damage, this can be a problem, because not only will the increased Doom penalty hurt you, the fact that you may have less max stamina and or reason, if you're doing really, really badly on Faith, can be another negative on top of the increased Doom penalty if you need to rest, which can happen sometimes. Sometimes you're in situations where you need to rest and you have Fetid Fumes, you're in Goizo, and if you're Yashiro, then you can't really go above a certain max stamina, which is, to me, is not really a huge effect, because in a True Believer run, your max stamina and or reason will likely never be capped anyway. So it depends, but if you stack his minus Faith with a certain perk, then you will be at very low max stamina reason, and that can be scary. I, on the other hand, is neutral. Nothing really much to say here. Yashiro can use spells if he wants to, but he doesn't really need to. There is one little cadaver to this, though. Is one of his perks can get you certain occult items, and if that can grant you spells, then that can kind of be a very, very small negative, because you're playing I and you don't want to increase Doom. And then you have Knight Errant, or you're in medical history backstory, so you get injured and you're trying to use spells for whatever reason to heal or whatnot, and yeah, your Doom just increases to death. Ithoteu is an interesting one, because like I said, Yashiro has perks that help him in encounters, mainly damage, and the speed of his actions. So being able to do faster actions with these perks and extra damage on top of the Ithoteu bonus damage can mean Yashiro is capable of doing a lot of damage, but you have to be able to do that. And if you have negative Faith, you can do more damage, but I don't really count that as much, because that requires some planning, and usually, like I said, on a True Believer run, if you're reaching minus Faith, negative value of Faith, then you're probably dying or dead. So there's that. Katak Aorasu completely nullifies one of his perks because you can't run, and I've tested it on this specific perk. I'll talk about it again, but yeah, running does not count with the pocket knife for that perk, but since you can't run in a Spider God run, you absolutely can make no use of this perk. But like I said, a lot of people probably won't use that perk on average, so Spider God is still as neutral as it is for other characters. And last but not least, the new god, Fish God, Yogatag, like Yogacha, I don't know what I call it, but yeah, so this god has commands that you have to do. You'll see in game, but mainly it's you're gonna get doom penalties for doing investigations according to where the god is targeting. For Yashiro specifically, there's not really much. He can kind of mitigate it, but that's based on RNG on one of his perks, and you have to get the specific item that lowers your doom, which is pretty interesting. I'd probably have to play with that perk more, but like I said, this god is still kind of neutral to Yashiro, because I say neutral in the way that it affects all characters kind of the same, minus a few characters. Obviously, Miku is a big one. So we'll play with the new god and go in right away. Look at that! Look at that guy! And we'll get in. So we'll go over his, again, so we're not Knight Errant, sub-A, non-A endings will penalize us with 7% doom, and we'll move on to just talk about, well, let's talk about the easy things. So like base stats, 6 strength, 7 dexterity, 5 perception, 8 knowledge, 4 charisma. Since there are no charisma weapons, and really the only thing that you really need to worry about is if you have a charisma check, because then that's pretty much going to be guaranteed -3 reason damage, and of course charisma checks if you're not in a non-ill-fated backstory run. Otherwise, like I said, having 6 strength, 7 dexterity is pretty good. Perception's low, but and a lot of common events with huge failures can hurt you, so that's kind of a little minus, but I don't weigh base stats really against it. 8 knowledge, however, is very good if you, like I said, plan to use a knowledge-based weapon. If not, though, his strength and dexterity are not bad either. Inspiring novels from the backstory, it's not a Yashiro personal item. However, the bronze crucifix is, and this is an interesting one as well. If you equip it, it allows you to fight ghost enemies normally. And it does what it says on the tin. It allows you to fight ghost enemies normally. I believe you may still be able to do the ritual, but we'll see if we run into a ghost encounter. Otherwise, the important part is, yeah, you can fight ghost enemies as if they were non-ghost enemies, and that can be a thing. If you use the bronze crucifix as we transition to his faith mechanic, you lose 6 faith, which can be strategic, but we'll talk about his faith and the thresholds as well. So Faith is a new stat, like I said, personal to Yashiro. Starts at 10, and it starts off with pretty much the best effect. If there is a higher threshold after this, then you'll probably never reach it in a normal, average True Believer run. Maybe on an Endless run if there was such an effect, but if not, then this is the top effect, and you start off with it. So you see what it is on screen. I'll say it just in case you're not... Just in case, so +2 max stamina reason, +1 dexterity, regain 1 stamina reason on top of the tireless bonus that you may get, and then +20 experience. So this does have its use. It's not the best thing, because if on a True Believer run, the +2 max stamina and reason look pretty shiny, and it does have a use. But as you go on late into the run, you'll probably never be topped off, like I said earlier. However, what this does allow you to do is, which I'm going to do, is when you take a bath at the very beginning, you can either pick 15 stamina or 15 reason. You'll get 14 stamina, 14 reason just for clicking the bath, and then you can choose if you want extra stamina or reason. So think of it as a barrier or an extra stamina or reason to lose before it starts dropping down. Especially if you lose faith for whatever reason, or like I said, you get injured or whatnot. So it isn't useless, because it's an extra stamina reason that you can start with by hitting the bath right away. And on top of that, with above 5 faith, you get +1 dexterity as well, along with the +1 stamina reason at the end of every mystery. Again, this is on top of the tireless, so... But ultimately, it is +1 extra stamina and reason, which is really nice. And then +20 experience, which is equal to the deduction perk that Koji has if you bind you. So 20 experience. If you keep your faith above 5 for the rest of the mystery, then this is pretty much a free guaranteed level up. Otherwise, this value does go down. And I'll talk about the thresholds right now. So if the value goes down to, say, 0 to 5, but anywhere between, well, 0 to 5 faith. So above 5 faith is what you see base, like I said, the effects that I just went over. Otherwise, if you have 0 to 5 faith, you get +1 max stamina reason, +10 experience at the end of the mystery, no dexterity bonus, so you lose that, and you lose +1 max stamina reason. Actually going over it as we might transition to perks in a bit, the +2 max stamina and reason is useful. I'll say so why in a bit. So it's more relevant than you think, but like I said, it's losing this, going down to below 6 faith is not the be-all end-all. However, once you start reaching -5 to -1 faith, then it gets a little iffy. You can think of it as you start with +2 max stamina or reason, and then you use the bath. and then you eventually tick down if you allow your faith to go negative. So like I said, -5 to -5 to -1 faith results in -1 max stamina reason. So note that there's a difference of 2 there. So you go from +1 max stamina and reason to -1. So you lose 2 there, and then you lose 5 experience at the end of mystery. You can't D-level, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is something you have to keep in mind. Normally, you'll probably never experience you won't be going, oh no, over -5 experience, but that's the thing. And the other thing, like I said earlier, and I want to repeat over and over because it's pretty relevant to a True Believer run, is that if you go negative faith, you're usually going to dying or dead, because at least personally for me, most of my runs I don't go under 0 faith, because if you're trying to optimize and whatnot, enemies shouldn't be doing that much damage. However, I will say, if you're in a bad situation, then you will go negative faith, and you will be dying, and you will probably die. But you will go negative faith, because what will happen is, so say you have like a bunch of injuries like burns, mangled hand, badly bleeding, and you can't heal all of them, and then you get a bunch of blood loss, and then you're taking a bunch of damage. You'll go under negative faith, and then you have to deal with the slight debuff. However, the worst debuff is if you go below -5 faith. So once you hit -6 faith or lower than that, then the effects become -2 max stamina or reason. You gain 1 strength and you deal 1 extra damage. So that's an interesting choice, and I'll say so in a bit. And then -10 experience at the end of the mystery. So, people were wondering if you could make use of that 1 strength plus 1 damage. I can see it coming into play during an endless run, but on a quick play, True Believer Sudden Death run, or just a True Believer run in general, that strong strength, or usually the extra damage, could come into handy. So a strat could be that for some reason you're in a bad way, but so you plan to fight a boss at the end of your run, or you were forced to fight a boss, or you know you're going to get into a bad encounter because you're stuck in a high threat level forest, then you can safely go into -6 faith or below for an extra point of damage, because 1 point of extra damage in a game where the values are normally low means it's more than a little. So, and again, to tie this into the Bronze Crucifix, if you use the Bronze Crucifix, you break the item. Gameplay-wise, you lose 6 faith. So you can strategically, if you see that you're at maybe -3 faith and you're about to run into an encounter, then you can break this. I don't believe the effect comes out immediately or dynamically as you do it. So if you're in an encounter, just like how smoking cigarettes in an encounter doesn't magically make you faster in the same encounter, you have to do it before you get into the encounter. I think even before you investigate and get into the black screen before. Otherwise, like I said, you can strategically break this and go below -5 faith, but if you break this and go into -5 to -1 faith, then you're kind of only really hurting yourself, because you're not getting the +1 strength and you're not getting the +1 damage. So there's that. So we'll move on to his perks while we take care of this bath. Again, like I said, starting out with just starting the game, you get to choose between having extra stamina, reason, or just take the 5 experience as normal. I usually prefer reason, because I feel like there's a lot more reason damage in this patch, which means even though theoretically they feel the same, close to 50-50 in terms of what you can lose, yeah, I feel like I'm losing more reason. Like I said, we'll go into the perks right now. So, and we'll you'll do the new mystery while we're at it. So, we'll go over the first perk, My Weird Collection. My Weird Collection gives you a random, as soon as you hit that complete mystery button and you get your experience and everything, you gain 1 random item with the occult tag. This can be anything that has the occult tag. So I'm sure a whole item list will come out, and if you've been to the occult shop, you know what you could possibly get. It could be anywhere from an item that just lowers your doom, which is actually really, really good, or you can get an occult robe, which is kind of meh, extra spells, but it's a free item. If you don't need to use it, you can sell it. So I consider this perk okay, at the very bare minimum. It can be really, really good. Like I said, you can get items that just that can heal you or decrease your doom, which is really, really valuable, because there's not a lot of ways to lower doom. So yeah. So moving on to the next perk, On Your Own, and this is another interesting perk. You +1 to all stats when you get this perk if you have no allies with you. So like I said before, in 7th Curse, you don't have the chance to get allies minus a couple that are guaranteed to minus a couple that are not affected by 7th Curse. But in any other run, if you decide to go with no allies, which is usually the case if you brute force, normally people are not looking for allies on purpose. Otherwise, the one usual case is that you'll pick up maybe Kana from Eels, but if you don't have Eels, then you might plan to do this perk. If you do get Eels, then you have a decision. You can get Kana and then not pick up this perk, or you can not get Kana and get +1 to all stats. It really depends. I personally prefer Kana anyway, so that's why this perk is a little less useful than my weird collection. But if I want something stable, then I might pick On My Own and skip out on Kana. It depends on how I strategize. Like I said, if you take Kana early, then theoretically you're mitigating more damage. So that's why I would not take On Your Own. However, I might decide that maybe I want to save Eels for last. Then in that case, you could take On Your Own. Or even just get Kana at the end, just so that you have +1 stats. Then you get Kana, and then you do not benefit from the perk anymore. And that's something you can do. Otherwise, On Your Own, +1 to all stats does have its use. It theoretically is a good perk on paper. However, again, you're at the mercy of RNG if you're using On Your Own for events. Lighthouse, I can definitely see a use because he starts out with 7 dex as long as you keep his faith above 5. Then you take this and then you can automatically clear the dexterity check minus any injury. So that's something you can do. So like I say, On Your Own is a pretty good perk. Okay perk at minimum, just like my weird collection. Depends on your strategy though. Moving on to the next perk, we'll go alphabetical. Stealth. Gain 10 experience for escaping from an enemy encounter. I mentioned this earlier, and I'll say it now that we're talking about stealth. So this only counts to actually running away from combat by hitting the button, not avoiding bosses through mysteries or using the pocket knife. Pocket knife does not proc this perk either, so you can't use a pocket knife on Spider God and run away. And if you're on Spider God, then this perk, you will not benefit from this perk at all. You might as well take a general perk to increase a stat because at least it can help. That can help you in an event. So, after that, yes, not really anything about stealth. However, I will say that I would consider picking up stealth if mainly if you run into bad encounters. The ones that come to mind are Miku in Downtown, the Drowner Sponge in Seaside, and the Class of 1907 in Seaside. I normally don't like to fight those encounters, especially on my 4th mystery onward. So if I see that I'm going to run into a lot of Seaside mysteries or do a lot of Seaside mysteries, I might choose to take stealth. And then if I get those encounters, I run away. Instead, if I go to Seaside and say I run into the cat, I'm probably just going to kill it, so I don't benefit from stealth. That's why stealth is near the mediocre, but it does have its use. Stealth does have its use, especially mainly if you're going to run from an encounter. Another one I could think of is the young witch in school, which was a DPS check, and if you're not prepared for her, then you have to run, and you might as well take 10 experience while you're running away anyway. So that's why I don't think of it as in terms of, I have to spend 5 Doom for 10 experience. That is true, but if you're going to run from an encounter, I think of it more as if you're going to run from an encounter anyway, then just take the 10 experience. It's nice. So let's see if we can get anything on my own. Zeal. I don't think I've had... Do I have Eels? No, I don't have Eels. Otherwise, I would have taken it first. So I'm going to take On My Own. And on the last perk, let's stop while I'm here. Actually, I want to think about this while I'm here. So Zeal is the last and final perk we'll go over. It's on screen. I won't even put it. So all combat moves deal an extra 1 damage. Lower max stamina and max reason by 4. So you think just looking at the effect, that this might be a little negative for a huge gain. Some people just consider it a huge gain without even looking at the other part because extra 1 damage is pretty useful. I'm going to take On My Own. I'm using the katana. I'm going to take On My Own. Either one is good at this point. I normally take Zeal, but I'm going to do On My Own Moan just to make it a little spicy. If I see Zeal again, I might even re-roll, but Zeal is if not tied with my weird collection and On Your Own, then it's the better of the two, and I can kind of understand why people would choose Zeal over it, especially if you keep on it. Mainly if you keep High Faith. If you keep High Faith, then you can use Zeal because then you're only, if you think about it, you gain +2 max stamina and max reason for playing Yashiro. And then if you do -4 max stamina reason, then that's pretty much another version of the... okay, good, I didn't have that. I completely forgot. Otherwise, you have another version of the Demon Mask, if you know what that item is, which is 4 max stamina for 1 extra damage, whereas Yashiro's perk is... Yashiro's perk is... -2 or -4 max stamina, -4 max reason for 1 damage. So the number wise, it's more on its own. However, like I said, if you look at the faith buff, then it equals to a overall -2 max stamina, -2 max reason. So your max stamina, max reason become 11 if you have above 5 faith, but you do 1 extra damage. And normally you're not going to be that high. That's why a lot of people take Zeal, because you're not going to be always at above 11 stamina and or reason, which is, you know, you might as well make use of Zeal then, right? And of course, if you're never gonna go up even above 9 or 10, then yeah, take Zeal, because you'll just be doing damage. However, if your faith starts to fall, then yeah, your max stamina and reason start to fall. But even then, some people would still take the extra damage, maybe. So that's that. So yeah, if we were to rank them, well, to me, if I were to rank them, it would be Zeal for sure, near the top, if not at the top on average. Then around the same second tier as My Weird Collection and On Your Own, and then Stealth would be the last one. Bow, clap, bow, bow. Let me concentrate. Okay. And yeah, that would be it, because yeah, like I said, not a lot of people run away. Some people might tactically choose to, but a lot of people like, I would assume a lot of people like to fight through encounters, especially because they're forced into some encounters anyway. Then yeah, you would take Zeal and or My Weird Collection or On Your Own if for some reason you foresee bad things or you're in a bad situation. Otherwise, you would take Zeal for the extra damage, then one of the other two, then Stealth last. If not, you'll just take the General Knowledge perk, because Yashiro does start off with 8 knowledge, and if you use the heavy-duty flashlight, then you just double your knowledge to 10 right away, and you can do wondrous things with 10 knowledge. You really only need 9, though, which is why I'm kind of rating Stealth a little lower, and advising, if you plan to use a knowledge-based weapon, to take 9 knowledge instead, because yeah, that's a new threshold that kind of exists now, which, you know, isn't usually the case. 8 even numbers are still a good threshold, but considering what can happen and what with the new additions, then like Monkey Wrench and Heavy Duty Flashlight, let's take the stamina damage here, then yeah, you can. Yeah, high knowledge. I know for sure with Yashiro with 9 knowledge can do prep attack pretty comfortably. If you had 8 knowledge, then just 8 knowledge, you would not be able to, unfortunately, which seems kind of strange, but it is a thing. And then with 10 knowledge, you can kind of fit in. I think you can fit some other configuration of attacks, which is pretty interesting. But you know, do I want to put anything? You know what? Let's use the insert. You could also sell this novel, but that's part of the backstory, not part of Yashiro. So, the Ritual Mask is not doing anything for us. We could do this. Yeah, let's do this. We're on Night Errand anyway, so we need to do this. We will be losing faith as a result, because Doom damage also works against your faith, because it's combat damage. So, yeah, let's deal with this. We are going to throw all of these at him, because we're probably not going to use these items. I could even throw the mask as well. That's extra damage, but let's see if that breaks the threshold. 15, 50, okay, so yeah, it doesn't, unless I do this, I guess. I need to gamble. I can 2-shot him, so only he does -1 doom. I could alternatively learn the ghost curse, or the ghost ritual here, but considering I'm Yashiro, granted my fate's probably not going to go that low, but, you know. If I didn't go over it, you gain 3 faith at the end of every mystery, you gain 2 faith for defeating an enemy, and then you lose faith based on how much damage you take. So it's point for point. So if you lose 1 stamina, you lose 1 faith. If you take -1 all damage, you lose 2 faith for -1 stamina, and -1 reason, and then doom damage. But though, like I said, the one interesting thing is that yeah, the one interesting thing is that if you have Suicidal or Paranoia and you proc that in battle, I believe that does take away faith. You correct me if I'm wrong, but like I said, if it does, then yeah, you gotta watch out for that. If not, then you can exploit it. So like I said, if your faith goes above 20 and there's an effect, then you're probably normally never reaching that, because this is with good RNG. especially with katana. So that's not really fair for this run, but yeah. But at least we get to see what Yashiro is like with the katana. This dexterity is helping out. I should probably heal this. Ramen Sailors, Coma. Coma's bugged right now, so if you actually do ending B with Knight Errand on 9.15 hotfix 1, then you do not suffer from the you don't suffer from the Knight Errand penalty. I assume that will be fixed soon, but you know, it is what it is, and we'll move on. So I talked about all the perks. Now I'm just gonna go with the rest of this run. These are kind of first impressions, but I've been sitting on this for a while. I did do a stream and then I played Yashiro more with some quick play configurations, so randomizing. So that's how I'm kind of talking about him. Granted, it is my experience using Yashiro, so I wouldn't say that what I say is like the best, and there are definitely different types of builds you can do on him, especially since, like I said, his strength and dexterity start out pretty average. His dexterity starts off with at 7 due to his own faith mechanic, and he starts out with 8 knowledge, and with the inclusion of the heavy duty flashlight, which does 2 purposes, both a knowledge based weapon. With 9 knowledge, you can do a prep attack comfortably, and then with the heavy-duty flashlight is a flashlight in itself, so you can use that if you get the lighthouse light check, which is really, really nice because the heavy-duty flashlight only costs 2. However, I didn't get it, but I have the katana, so that's the thing about Yashiro on other things. 7th curse, especially, like I said, you don't have to worry about using on my own. You can use on my own if you want. Otherwise, let's see here. Zeal is kind of neutral for all backstories. Helps out in any encounter-heavy backstories situations or old god situations like Spider God and Ethotu because it's extra damage on top of it. However, like Ethotu's bonus damage, I think Zeal is also not the double damage you get from doing a desperation. This is a really like minor detail, but the extra damage from Zeal is still halved. So say, and I think I did this either on stream or just to, well, I know I did it to Scissor Woman. So say you have Zeal and you do 5 damage per turn. If you have to Desperation, then you double the 5 damage, but it's actually not, you don't actually do 20 damage as you'd expect if you can Desperation into 2 attacks. You do a little less than that. I think it's like 19 because of how it works. Some bonus damage does, let's take this, just to round out, unless I saw the knowledge one, but yeah, I believe there is some bonus damage that's calculated point for point when you're using Desperation, but I think Zeal is the worst of the 2 possibilities, where it's not actually double. It's like, yeah, it takes away a point if you do damage like I just said. 5 twice is 10. Desperation should be 20, but it's like actually 19. So that's something you need to watch out for. If not, then Zeal is better than it is, and that just makes Zeal a better perk. Like I said, I like talking in terms of possibilities. So yeah, let's keep going. This should be a successful run. 4th mystery, 45% doom. I have more than enough doom to work with. And I should be fine here. Again, with Zeal, you can one-shot Obsessed Man. Unless this was my 5th mystery. If it was my 5th mystery, then I would need to do 2 attacks, because his HP would be at 16 due to mystery scaling. Nope, dexterity. Why do stats matter? Granted, yeah, 8 is pretty around 75% without, cause if you're not paying attention to modifiers, so that's that. Energy drink, though, does help me out with the katana. Do I want to, though? Yeah, probably not. I am a knight errant, so I want to throw things away. Yeah, you know what? Let's throw the energy drink and the ritual mask away. We're going to keep the bronze crucifix in case we run into a ghost encounter. Non-Burning Man ghost encounter. If I run... Okay. So we have Doom, so we're going to spend that for funds, and we're going to keep going. Yeah, so Knight Errant is a pretty... If you decide to just brute force and don't go for ending A for whatever reason, although some mysteries are completely easy to get ending A, like arms, obviously. Eels, because a lot of people usually take Kana. So you don't really have to worry. However, if you run into a bad configuration of mysteries, then you have to weigh. So I'm kind of going into the new content. I said I was going to do it in another video, and I will, but I just want to go over it on average. So yeah, Knight Errant, it's generally you want to pay attention to what mysteries you have, and then decide from there. Do you know you're going to do ending A, or maybe you just do the first mystery and see where you're at, see how healthy you are, and then after that maybe you'll do it, because like I said, if you get botanist without mermaids, then that's a guaranteed 7% doom. However, if you do have mermaids and then you have a good configuration of mysteries, then you can look at it and go, well, maybe I'll go for ending A, but then botanist ending A, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage, so maybe I want to take 7% doom anyway. It's all based on what you want and your strategy going from there. I would assume if I saw botanist even with mermaids, I might do mermaids ending A, but I would probably just take the 7% doom damage, because like I said, going through all the steps of botanist is guaranteed at least 9 or 12 stamina and or reason, so you need healing. And if you're playing Yashiro specifically, yeah, so we can go into a Yashiro, I guess, in that way. So if you, nice, yeah, Bronze Crucifix can fight this normally. Let's check. Yeah, so you can't. Well, no, you can't sever. So it turns into it just turns into a non-ghost encounter. Cool. Interesting. And I wonder if the ritual still works in that way, though. I haven't tested that out. But yeah, so yeah, Knight Errant Yashiro on. If you get botanist, I think you just take it, because with the faith, if your faith goes especially low, then goes really low for whatever reason, like I said, you're in a bad way. Like I said, at that point you're probably dying, but with low faith and not enough max stamina reason to even complete botanist, even if you do survive, for every other character you'll just be in a lot of pain anyway. So so here I'm gonna take the ramen doom damage, so because I don't have items to throw away, I don't believe, unless I buy them, but yeah, that's not gonna happen. So like I said, just being aware of Knight Errant's penalties. Generally, it's supposed to be a test, quote-unquote, of your knowledge of the game to see if you can do ending A, but if you're doing True Believer, ending A is usually not feasible, so that's why if you take the 7% doom, at worst, you're probably taking around 28% doom, because out of 5 if you have all 5 mysteries and you can't do ending A, then you're taking 35% doom, but that was the last mystery, so there's no point taking my weird collection now. We will... Oh, I'd never healed my frostbite. Feels bad, man. Well, I should have actually saved this level, because that would have allowed me to heal more. Although, with 10... Yeah, I'm past the threshold, so with 10 stamina, I should be okay. No, I don't. So I have... Yeah, I don't have any procs, so I should be able to brute force at least the common... or the stat checks. Granted, like I said, I picked up Katana. You're still at the mercy of RNG, so sit down and review of Yashiro with anywho, did I do Coma second? Oh no, I didn't. What? Really? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna get through this anyway. I just mash through confidently. But yeah, picking up the Katana is the be all end all that overrides pretty much almost every character you're playing. The only thing that counters that really are the events themselves. Obviously, because Katana helps you in encounters, but it can't help you against events just flooring you. So that's that. So overall, in the end, Yashiro, interesting character for sure. Whether he's... some people say he's overpowered. Other people like to look at him and say, oh, this could be a challenge. I think he's still in the average category, but a little better than average, considering that if you play... Normally, when you play, I would assume on average, you're going to be you have a high faith, which means you can make use of Zeal and take the extra damage. If for some reason you're going below 5 faith consistently, and you believe your strategy or build is pretty good, then I would assume maybe you just ran into bad luck. But normally you have high enough faith, because as you just saw, I had a bunch of faith, but there's not really any effects after having above 5 faith. So that's that. Yeah, like I said, in the end, overall good character in my opinion. At least he was well executed. It's a good character from a design standpoint on Panstez's part. Gameplay wise, he is a very interesting one, and he's a fun character to play, and he's okay to play when you know how to play him. But granted, I will say that you do have to have some knowledge of the game and optimizing your encounters, because that's mainly that's the only way to lose faith, really. And then after that is the backstory and the god. So that's that's not more about the character, although the character working with the old god and the backstory can be a thing. So that was the end of this sit-down review of Yashiro. Maybe I'll come back, maybe I missed something, but if so, these were close to first impressions. If you have any comments or criticism or builds of your own, or I said something that didn't tickle your fancy and you're like, no, you should actually do this, or this is wrong, then feel free to say so in the comment section, because I like opening my mind to new things. It keeps my brain fresh and hopefully makes me remember things when I should be remembering if you watch my challenge videos. Anywho, if you made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching. I do plan to do more content in the future of World of Horror. It's going to be pretty much my main game now, if a certain video hasn't come up before this. And yeah, that'll be that for now. I won't waste any more of your time. JordanMML, out.